Welcome back to our daily show. Here's CJ.
Baby, your partner and you're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. You're so vain, so vain. I bet you think this song is about you, don't you?
1031, welcome back. Stella Webb, Jodi Rae, and Nichole Coad. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, you were great, Nichole. Thank you so much for this. The ABCs of healthy relationships. Stella, you and I have talked about numerous times on this show about relationships, and I know that Jodi, we have talked about this very same thing. And a lot of times in life, we're kind of programmed about unhealthy ways that we're in relationships, and this is a great way to kind of recharge, refresh our knowledge a little bit, and determine if we're a part of a healthy relationship or not, correct?
Exactly. The thing is, and the truth is that we're not taught while we're growing up how to have healthy relationships. If anything, I was taught how not to have healthy relationships.
Right.
Or how to have unhealthy relationships. And so this is kind of, this whole workshop, we're doing the ABCs. We're starting at A, going all the way through Z. And we're going to, every month there will be another letter. And we're going to talk about all the ways to have healthy relationships, address some of the issues that we have around relationships, and then, provide some suggestions on how you could possibly make it a way that's healthy.
And how did all three of you guys get connected and come up with these really cool workshops? Hey, Jodi, how are you again?
We all have been connecting through Stella and the Aquarius Room and Soul Sanctuary, and meeting up and recognizing that we all have similar hopes and dreams around the way that we connect in community. And it's been really beautiful connecting with two like-minded women who have the same vision. And as we continued opening conversations in our little circle, we realized we want to start having these conversations on a broader scale. How can we open this up to the public and make it engaging and fun and interactive, so that way it's not just for us, it's for our community.
Right. Well, and because there's so many people that you all have encountered, especially if did the Wellness Festival go up?
It went fantastic. It was wonderful. So many people showed up, and I loved it.
And when I touched on that, because there's an interest in a big intrigue, it seems like, from the public to learn more about how to tackle mental health and really just overall healthy living. And healthy living goes from, how we maintain relationships to a whole gamut of opportunities and different lessons. And this is wonderful that we're having these workshops to really tackle those. Now, are you getting a lot of interest?
This is our first one, so we'll see on Sunday how it goes. But the whole purpose is, I forgot what I was going to say.
I do that all the time. I just kind of start.
But you just keep on
I
rolling.
just put verbs out,
Okay.
jump.
And, no, that's not the end of
Well, can I ask you all, when did you notice that maybe relationships in your lives weren't as healthy as we perceived them to be?
That's what I wanted to talk about. Here's what I wanted to say is that when I first met Jodi, I had just come out of a situation with a bunch of friends that had been helping me with what I was doing. It was similar to Soul Sanctuary, and it was very unhealthy, the whole situation. And when Jodi showed up, and to that point, I hadn't been allowing anybody else to join me at the Soul Sanctuary.
Right.
I was protecting my space, protecting my clients, all this kind of stuff. And Jodi shows up at a meditation. Hey, you want to do a women's circle? And I was like, let's talk. And that's what we did. We sat down and we talked. And I was able to see that Jodi was right where I was when it came to wanting to have healthy relationships. I didn't want to find myself in that situation again where I was going to be hurt or anything like that, or that the other people were going to be hurt. I wanted to have a healthy relationship in my business, in my life, all of that around there. And Nikki just happens to be somebody who's always been around for healthy relationships.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to talk about that too, because sometimes when we say healthy relationships, folks automatically program to think about maybe a husband wife, husband wife situation, and relationships could be your relationship with your friends, your relationship with your coworkers, and
Exactly.
and that's something that I think more folks need to learn about in that aspect too, because we always think romantically, but we really don't think about that daily relationship that we have with folks in our community, in our circles.
And that's what, once we learn how to have a healthy relationship first with ourselves.
Yep.
Right?
That's
And then
that's step one.
that can extend to our family and our close friends, and then it can just go from there all the way out to the community, and that's what our hope is for
Now,
this.
I'll ask all three of you this. How important is it to maintain and find that relationship that we have interpersonally with ourselves before we really start to tackle any of those relationships externally?
It's the foundation.
It is. It's the most important part for sure.
It is?
It changes your outlook on the rest of the world whenever you have a better relationship with yourself.
Absolutely. Jodi, what are your thoughts?
Just echoing what Nichole said, that whenever we have a relationship with ourselves, we create this inner world that has a feeling of peace, of acceptance, of awareness. And whenever we practice that internally, it gives us the space to then meet the external world with that same lens.
100%. And now, during this first workshop on Sunday at 2:30?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Okay, 2:30 Sunday at Soul Sanctuary at Milton School House. What's A? What are we starting with?
Awareness and acceptance.
I love it. So how is it going to break down in the workshop? How long does it last? And what's the format kind of look like?
Well, it's a roughly 90 minutes to 120 minutes, and it's going to be broken down into education, group discussion, and small group breakout space. So that way we get to talk about the topics, really dive in, and then there's going to be space held so everyone's voices can come in and have space to be seen, heard, and witnessed. And then there's this practice element. So we've been talking about it, we've been speaking to it, and now we're going to break off into small groups, and we're actually going to practice diving into holding space and giving one
cool.
another that presence and that opportunity.
Whenever someone's doing this and they realize, maybe this friendship, this partnership, whatever we have relationship-wise isn't healthy. They go into the workshops, they go, man, this is something that's really draining me mentally, it's draining me, physically, it's taxing. What does that look like next for somebody that's identified not in the healthiest relationship? How do we start to either mend that or say it's time to maybe move down the road and see if our paths cross later on?
Well, it starts with me.
Interesting.
It really does. If there's, so it takes two to tangle.
Yeah, right.
And quite honestly, if something is wrong in within a partnership or a friendship or something like that, I don't look at the other person and see what's wrong with them. It starts with me. What's going on with me? What is it about this situation that might trigger something? Because every trigger means there's something for me to heal. That's on me to do. It's not on that other person. And expecting somebody else to gear their life around you, that's just unrealistic, and it's unhealthy. That part is unhealthy. And so I work on myself. Once I've worked on myself and I'm in a good place and stuff like that, if it's still not working out, then you can go from there and see how is best to try to navigate that situation, right?
And what's your advice for the audience today? And, all three of you, I'll ask the same question. For somebody that's in that situation, that's, maybe working on themselves, has already had that conversation with that individual and said, hey, I got to kind of, figure some stuff out. What do those interactions look like? What do you kind of recommend to folks that need to have those very tough conversations sometimes that, are very beneficial? How do those sound? How do those look for all three of you?
Okay, well, I'll go first.
Thanks, Jodi.
For me, it looks like practicing in lower thresholds. So it's not going for the big bang conversation
Right.
straight out the gate. It's really practicing, as Stella said, with myself first. And then maybe practicing having, how do I want to word this? So that looks like, coming into these types of community spaces and saying things like, hey, I want to practice saying how I hold up this boundary. Like, hey, whenever we go to X, Y, and Z, I would really like to know before it's time to leave, can we have like a 5-minute transition period before it's like time to go? And then just feel how it sounds coming out. The more we can trust our language and trust ourselves to show up, the easier it becomes in those higher intensity situations to trust ourselves. So it's just practice, practice, practice.
Absolutely. Nichole, what are your thoughts on this?
Similar, definitely similar. I would say practice is a great start, but also feeling comfortable with yourself to advocate for yourself. So again, that inner work in what you need, because it's all going to be different.
Well, and that's a great point. I want to come back to that too. Stella, what are your thoughts?
Well, the truth is that if you've done all of this and things are still not in a good place, and you're working on yourself, and maybe you're with somebody, they're not on a place where they're wanting to work on themselves and stuff. Sometimes you have to love people from afar.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And on top of that too, going back to what you just said here, Nichole, whenever you can't advocate for yourself, because sometimes folks have a major problem or hurdle doing that. And you maybe either have to step away quietly, or you maybe need a third party to kind of maneuver that. How does that come into play? What is your kind of advice or thoughts on that for somebody that is really not their best self-advocate, maybe needs somebody to kind of help step in and interact? Because that could kind of muddy the communication waters a little bit too. And just for me kind of thinking outside looking in here, with having that third party kind of directing that one-on-one interaction.
Yeah, a third party is definitely an idea, and sometimes just breaking away from what the situation is and maybe coming back at another date is also a great idea for myself.
Yeah.
So
really interesting. I just, these are such important thoughts, because so many of us go through, our lives and we're scared of, I can only imagine there's times where I get a text and I'm like, oh God, I got to respond to that. How do I do it? What do I say? Because if I say this wrong, then all of a sudden I got to deal with X, Y, and Z. But if I say it right, then I still have to deal with, W and X, So it's really, these are very important conversations.
It's so complicated.
They are. Now, whenever someone's going to this, what age are you going to or limit this to? Is there an age restriction?
For the most part, no. There might come a time when one of our discussions focuses on sex.
Yeah.
And at that point, we will probably put an age limit on it.
Yeah.
Nikki is our sex awareness health kind of guru, and when it comes to that those conversations will be left for people who are 18
and that's
over.
a very important conversation too. That we probably don't. That needs a whole nother show to dive into. But there's definitely, that's a very important topic. But also, my thought was too, for parents out there that have kids in middle school and high school that are having problems with interactions with their fellow students and maybe not finding their own spot in friend circles or finding their group. This could be a good opportunity maybe for them even to come in and hear some of this.
Exactly.
You think so?
100%.
Okay, good, because I kind of threw that out there and I was nervous when I did.
No, I think that this is one of those vital topics that we need to have space held, community space held from, middle school age on up. Like, it needs to be something where we can have these conversations while acknowledging that they are uncomfortable, they are challenging. And in doing that, we give ourselves permission to be in the discomfort of it while proving that we can show up for one another.
Right.
And
well, it's a good point, Jodi, not to cut you off, because sometimes I feel like that's kind of my generation's issue right now, because we were kind of shielded from some of those very serious topics in school by the way they were taught to us, maybe a more of a textbook or an informative setting. And it makes it a little bit more difficult sometimes, I've noticed, for some of my generation to talk about those and be a part of those really, really kind of serious conversations and really important topics to discuss.
There's a lot of anxiety around the idea of trying to navigate all these different relationships, and to be honest, a lot of people will just opt out.
Yeah.
Where they just decide not to have, and that's not healthy either. We're humans, we're meant to be around each other, and it's important, right? So instead of just completely giving up, learn how to establish and maintain healthy relationships. Choose the people that you want to be around and you want to surround yourself with. people that you know you can trust, that you don't have to be pulling knives out of your back every 5 seconds, right? It's that kind of stuff. That way you're doing it in a healthy way, and your life is a far more fulfilling.
100%. And now there are 25 letters in the alphabet.
26?
Oh, God dang it. I know. I was
No, there's 25.
It's Heck Month, you know. And so there's 26 weeks of this then, correct?
Yeah.
So that accounts for, well, half a year.
Yeah.
This is 6
No, a month. We're doing it once a month.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so 26
So it's going to
months.
be like over 2 years.
That's really,
Yeah.
really cool. And so this is going to be a longer haul of a journey for folks to really go on and develop a whole nother community too, and a whole nother relationship with the group. And now, do we know what Z is going to be yet in 2 years?
Not yet. Full disclosure, not yet.
Now, where can folks get the most information on these monthly workshops, and where can they find all the good details?
So they can look on Soul Sanctuary's page, Sundog Alchemy.
Yep.
And you can find it on the Aquarius Room community page. It's a brand new page full that has all of the stuff happening in the Aquarius Room, because it's not just Soul Sanctuary stuff. It's everybody else that's coming together. There's a group of facilitators. As a matter of fact, we're going to have an open house on Saturday.
Really
From
cool.
11 to 2, where people can come in, meet Nikki and Jodi and me and several other people who facilitate events in that room.
Really awesome.
It's like a spiritual community center. I love it.
There you go. So go on Saturday and get the preview and a taste of what's to come on Sunday. How about that? I love it. And I think all the three of you are doing really great work and tackling really important topics and conversations that most shy away from, but they're very important to have. And it means a lot for y'all to come on the show and fill us in on it.
Thank you so much for having
for
us.
having
We
us.
appreciate
No
that.
anytime. Seriously, I love having you on the show. 10:47, a little bit of change. We'll come back, wrap up the Wednesday morning that was right after this on RiverBender.com and Roku TV.